Go download my free legato course right now and learn to play fast in the fastest way possible. Hey, we all, many of us have this idea that if I'm a rock guitar player, if I play rock, or if I play metal, or if I play jazz, or if I play, Spanish flamenco inspired music, then I have no business looking into other styles of music. And of course, we all know that that's a poor idea, that's a bad idea. But we also want to focus primarily on what we want to become good at, right? So if we want to become good at playing rock, we focus on rock players and we emulate those. But there's a huge mistake going on when it comes to looking at different styles of music. And that's what this video is about. And when you clear that up, the whole world of music is suddenly open to you, and you can become a real musician. You can draw from all kinds of styles pretty easily and quickly because you know how to do that. So let's talk about this. What we're talking about here is that most people see a style of music as an individual thing, like a language. Like, okay, we got Latino-inspired Spanish guitar. That's one language, right? Then we got melodic rock and fire or metal or whatever over here. That's a totally different thing, right? It's a different language. Like, that's English and this is Spanish. Or, jazz is Egyptian and, whatever. We see it as separate things where it's really the same language but with different dialects, with different ways of pronouncing the words. And what I just did here is a very good example of that. So I'm going to use that to explain how close things are and how you can learn to play any style of music. Of course, what we basically have is a way of playing the notes. Same scales, same tools, everything. But the way you play them is different. And then that's, the way we play stuff. And then we got the tools. In melodic rock, you would use the diatonic scale, the minor scale, and that's the basis of it, right? Very often. And in blues and blues rock, a blues-based rock, you would use the blues scale. That's a different sound, right? But in melodic rock, you also use that. You have the diatonic and you have the blues. And in blues rock, you also use. So again, it's basically the same tools with a different focus. In blues rock or blues-based rock, like AC/DC, you would focus mostly on the blues scale. You use the diatonic scale sparingly. Whereas in melodic rock, you use mostly the diatonic scale, the minor scale, the 7-note scale there, major, minor. And then you use the blues scale, not sparingly, but less than you use the other. So that's basically just a matter of where you put your focus within those tools. But tools are a part of, in jazz, you also use the diatonic scale, but you modulate a lot. You have a lot of different keys within the same song, which, different characteristics there. But it's still the same tools. It's the same freaking scales. And in jazz, you also use the blues scale a lot. And you build your songs or, key. Right, you also have blues elements in there. And, in Spanish, inspired music. If I had a nylon string, that would be something. Because that's the third box here, is what instruments are you using? And what sounds do you add to those instruments? If I go like... right, then we know where we are, right? This is not Latin, Spanish-inspired flamenco-like music, right? Because I got distortion on my guitar suddenly. So there are sounds, instruments. I might play a nylon string guitar that gives me another sound. So we got that, and then we got the scales, and where we put our focus within that toolbox of scales, right? And then there's the how do you actually play that stuff, right? And let me just give you an example here. And you can start listening for this in any style of music, and then you can pull out the elements that you like and that you would like to use in your own style, your primary style, whatever that is. But do not shut yourself off to anything. Right? You can even have 3 months or 6 months where you play a different style of music entirely that you're not used to, and then you return back to what you like the most with a ton of inspiration, a ton of new stuff that can, create original stuff over here because you got inspired from a different world. So let me just if we got something like neoclassical metal, right, and Spanish inspired, then in neoclassical metal we would use the minor scale a lot. We use the major scale, same thing, and then we would use the harmonic minor, right? And then we would use like chord progressions that are basically very structured, very sequential, right? Like in classical music. Like they move around in sequences. In this case, I go up in fourths or down in fifth, however you see it, right? But let's just take that. Like, let's take something like. Spanish music over it. If I just add a little bit of distortion to the sound, right, and I shift my sound here. So what is the difference here? Well, I added some sound. I went from clean sound to distorted, and then it's like Spanish has this, right? I'm using the harmonic minor scale here, but it's like it has this kind of temperamental in little, it's a different way of using the scale. Staccato, right? Right? It's a different way of speaking than neoclassic. Right? So we use it's basically related, right? But the way I play the notes, it's like a language with a different dialect, and then we put on some distortion, and bam, we went from Latin or flamenco inspired to neoclassical metal, right? And if you add some rhythms, which is another right? Add some of that, then you're in a totally different style here, right? And if I play just a simple A minor, I would just play like a chord, like, and I play. Oh, that's a really bad loop. See, this is no style, right? But I can turn this into a bluesy thing by using the blues scale. Now we got some blues rock happening. could turn that into something jazzy by shifting the sound here, going for my neck pickup instead of my bridge. You go. A little blues scale there in the end. And what is the difference here? Let me sing it because it makes it more obvious. When I play blues, it's like, you know, I got a different sound on, but I could also go. Right? But when I play jazz, we almost not want to hit one every single time. We don't want to go ba bo ba bo ba 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 be be be. We want to go ba be ba dee bo ba ba dee do da ba be ba dee. So I never start a line. I never start a line on any one of the straight beats. 1, 2, 3, or even 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I go so it ends and begins on the opposite of normal blues or normal rock. So once I do that, I got that characteristic of jazz suddenly happening. Like a dialect, it's the same scale, right? I use the blues scale as well, and I use the diatonic scale, but it's a different thing. So we got that beat. Right? So we have a beat now, so I can go. Right? Once I shift to jazz, it's fragmented a little. Right? But and also I use chromatics. I tie the notes together using the non-scale notes in between. So if I instead of going, I go, right? Instead of going, I go. So, but it's basically a matter of learning that dialect instead of learning a whole new thing. That's why you can look into every style of music, and it's not like, oh, I can learn something from that. You can learn almost everything from that, because the only difference between, you know, learning classical, whatever, Spanish, Latin inspired flamenco type acoustic nylon string, the only step from that into neoclassical metal is nothing. It's like, it's just a little bit of a phrasing different of learning the dialect of that. And the next step to jazz from that is to learn a little shift in dialect and some chromatic notes, right? Then suddenly you sound like jazz. And that's why you don't want to keep yourself blocked from anything, because what happens is when you're not studying the whole picture of music and drawing from everything, is that you keep within that little bubble of that single style of music, and then you do what everybody else does all the time. Nothing new comes in. So we're basically sharing the same ideas, sounding like everybody else, getting the same ideas because we receive the same information as everybody else in that little bubble, right? And nothing new happens. You have to shuffle more elements. There has to be more chaos before you decide what you want to create. And the chaos comes from all kinds of dialects. You need to visit the world, travel the world, before you decide on what you really like, right? Just a piece of advice. But it's real, right? So don't shut yourself off. You can go into any style of music. And you can go check out our website, because we got Neoclassical Academy, we got Hard Rock Academies, we got all fusion lessons and all kinds of stuff. And there's nothing there that you shouldn't go into. No, I always went into everything. I didn't end up playing jazz for the most part. I didn't end up playing flamenco style music for the most part. But it was just such an exciting journey to see, oh, what's going on in here? What tools are we using in the middle there? What is this? What is the sound? What is the phrasing, dialect of that type of music? What instruments, what sounds do we use? And once you have those 3 boxes, you can use them in your playing, and you'll learn something that you wouldn't have been able to learn if you stayed in your bubble. See you in the next video.
Subscribe for more free videos. Do it. Do it now. Do it.